Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Well, it got really cold last night, minus 20 degrees Celsius or 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I had the heater on in the greenhouse here and it stayed right around the freezing point. Some of my pots just slightly got a bit of freezing on the surface of the soil, but it stayed a pretty good temperature in here, which is good to know that it can kind of maintain that temperature even though it's really cold outside. Today I'm going to start by working on this aloe planting. I don't know if you would call it a bonsai, but I'm going to try and grow it into a tree-like form. Here is a look at my aloe forest. It's planted in a Sarah Rayner pot. Maybe this pot's a little too good for the trees, but when I met Sarah at the US National Bonsai Show last year, I told her I planted aloes in it, and she said, "Oh, that's okay." She says, some people fill the drainage holes in the pot and use it as candy dishes. So she wasn't too disappointed I planted aloes in her pot. These aloes have been chilling in the basement, staying above freezing, but not a whole lot above freezing. It's really hard to water this planting. The leaves have grown in. You can see some of the leaves are growing over top of the other trees. So today I'm going to prune off all the large leaves, just leaving the leaves at the growing tip. You can see on aloes as they grow, they get small leaves, and then the leaves get larger and larger as they mature. So I'm going to begin the pruning now. And I just cut through the base of the leaf, and it leaves a bit of the leaf intact, and then that part of the leaf dries up and eventually falls off. So here I go. I'll start with these large leaves here, just cutting through them like that. You can see the gooey aloe juice. Yeah, so I'll just, prune away, leaving a few leaves at the tip, at the growing tip of the aloes. So aloe plants, they don't really branch out like a regular tree, but they do get, pups on the side of them, which, if left, will grow into branches on the trees. So you can see the trunk on the largest tree. It's quite thick. So it should make an interesting plant, and possibly even a bonsai someday. Okay, I think that's good as far as removing leaves. That sure will make it easier to water. So that's got the leaves removed on my mini aloe forest. I hope, this grows up and eventually gets some branching on top and kind of creates a tree-like form. These little pups I planted here will get a bit more light now. So it should become a nice looking forest in the future. A bit of cleanup work on my aloe forest. Let's get out another tree. I'll bag this up and bring it back indoors, protecting it from the extreme cold outside. The next tree I'll be working on today is the Wynnard Jade. This was sent to me by Scott Wynnard from Sheffield, England, of the YouTube channel Let's Do Bonsai. It originally came as a taller tree, but it was planted in some soil that went mushy and it started to rot up the trunk. So I cut the top of the tree off and planted it as a cutting, and it survived and it's doing really well. So today I'm going to prune it up. Here is a look at the jade. It's doing quite well. It has a branch down low here that I think I'll prune away, and I just want to prune all these growing tips back to make it more compact and get more branching on the tree. So every time I cut a growing tip off, that one tip divides into two then, and I get more branches. To give this jade a more tree-like form, I am going to prune off that lowest branch. I don't want it to look like a bush or a clump style. So that comes off, exposing more of the trunk line. The next step, I'm looking at this branch here, and I've got I've got 3 branches growing from this one pruning spot here. So I want to keep my best ones, and I think it's the two that come out, you know, kind of radially from the trunk. And there's a third one in here that's growing at a funny angle. So I'm taking this little third one off like that, cleaning that up, and then I'll prune this branch back. So here's a good example of directional pruning. I have leaves. One leaf is facing kind of, well, downward and one upwards. And then on the next set of leaves, I have one that's coming forward and one coming backwards. So if I wanted this branch to come to the front of the tree, I would prune it off here. And that would get a new branch growing in the leaf direction, one out front and one towards the back. If I wanted this branch to go more horizontally, and I would get one that grows vertical here, I would prune it off here, and I do want that. I want to develop the branch out in a more horizontal way. So I'll just clean that cut up. So that I'm pruning it right back to the first set of leaves. On the one out the back here, I have a leaf kind of coming towards this first branch here. So if I pruned it off, you know, here, I would get a branch that kind of crosses this branch. If I go up higher, it subdivides at this set of leaves already, and I've got a branch that kind of goes out the back and one that goes vertical. I think in this case, I think I will keep my vertical part, so I will keep this division up here, but I will prune off the older leaves. So I'll come in here and remove the older leaves and the ones on the bottom here. Now, right far back, I've exposed another small set of leaves that does kind of fan out, so I'm thinking, well, maybe that would be better to prune right back to these ones so I get a branch coming out the back here. I think that would be good. So off it comes. Pruning it right back. My next branch, I have a branch coming off the trunk here, and it comes up and it divides into two, and then this divides into two again, and same with the back one. It comes up and it also divides from one into two. So that's really good. It's getting some good branching on this tree. So again, I want to pick, you know, a leaf that's fanning outwards. So there's a good one here. This one here isn't bad, but it goes maybe a little more, you know, off the radial direction. So I'm going to prune it back to here, taking that tip off. And then on the other one, you can see if I pruned it to here, I would get a branch coming out to the right and one to the left, and I don't want that. So I've got a set of leaves down lower that are fanning outwards, so I'm going to take the whole tip off there. So that's got this part cleaned up. I will remove this old leaf in here, like that, and I'll remove these older leaves too, just keeping leaves at the growing tip to get more light into the plant and air circulation and keep it nice and healthy. So next on this branch, I have it coming up and dividing here, so I want a leaf that's kind of fanning out. I've got one up here. I could prune it back to here. This one, I've got a good set down lower, or I could prune it up higher and redirect the branch more out the back. I think that would be better, taking it off there. And then I'll remove the older leaves, just cleaning it up. And there's one on the inside here I can remove. And then on this one I can remove the older leaves also, so I will. It's very cold in the greenhouse here today. It's only 5 degrees above freezing. On this branch here, there's a little branch growing out the back that I don't want. It's pointing downwards, so I'm going to clean that up also. So that's got these two lower branches cleaned up. So now I need to go up into the canopy here and work on this. So the trunk line comes up and it divides from 1 into 2 major branches. There's a third branch growing off the side here. I don't want that. I don't want a cluster of branches at the top, so that one is coming off, keeping my better branches up top here. Out the back, there's also another branch which would make, you know, maybe it's okay. It makes 3 branches growing in this one area quite... I think I'm better to remove it. I think it'll cause problems. I'll have too many branches in that area and it'll just look too cluttered. So you can see now this branch comes up and divides from 1 to 2. So I've got a good set of leaves fanning out here. So I will prune it back just to there. And the vertical one, it's quite vertical and it doesn't really, you know, flow outwards. I could prune it off to the leaf coming out the front, or I could remove it entirely. Let me have a look. I think, you know, this is the strong leader of the tree, and this back one is thicker and taller, so I may have to do some reduction on this back one. I think I will keep this one. I will prune it off here, and then I'll work on, you know, cleaning out this back branch. So this is my growing tip on the tree. So looking at that back branch, it comes up and then it divides into 2, but it's taller than this part of the tree. So I need to either hard prune it back or just, you know, keep it pruned and let this one grow more. It's an okay structure. I wouldn't say it's great. You know, this trunk line is really nice, and this one kind of, it's not the greatest. I've got a branch coming out the front here, the start of one, which could be a good branch in the future if I hard pruned it back. And there's another one on the other side of it. I think that's in order, is a hard prune there. So I'm going to cut it right through here. So here I go, big cut coming up. Just like that. So you can see now it looks better with the apex here, some branching. Now I think it's looking a little cluttered back here, this back branch. You know, I've got 2 branches here growing parallel. So I think I am going to, I'm thinking about pruning this one off. I think I will. So it comes off totally like that. I think that cleans up that area quite nicely so it doesn't look quite so congested. I'm even wondering, you know, I've got the 2 branches here. Do I want to grow the branch a little longer and then start my subdividing? Here it looks like, you know, there's 2 branches coming off the trunk. So I think I will. I think I'll clear out that back one and keep the front one. I think it'll look too congested in the future. So off that back branch comes, like that. And that completes the work on the winter jade. And I think it's looking good. I think it's going to be a great looking tree in the future. I took a lot off this little jade. I'll show you what I took off. It's quite a bit, you know, considering the size of the tree. So this tree is also chilling in the basement, just above freezing. And it's doing quite well. The sun is trying to come out today, so that would be good. It would warm this greenhouse up a bit more. I'm going to place this tree into the plant room, warm it up. It would do fine in the basement, I think, but I've got space in the plant room for a small tree like this, so I'll see how it does. I'll warm it up in there and kind of compare it to the jades that are in the cold basement and just see see what kind of different growth I get. The next trees I'll be working on are these Natal Plums. And the question today is, do I prune them or do I let them grow? I've got a cup of hot coffee to warm my hands up. It is cold out here. Here is a look at the Natal Plums. I've had these for a lot of years. They were started as small cuttings and they have flowered in the past, and they have these beautiful white fragrant flowers on them. And in the right conditions, they'll develop fruit, little round fruit that turn red when they ripen. And the fruit is edible. They make jams out of them. So a really interesting plant. I treat it as a temperate tree, so it's in the basement chilling for the winter. And the question is, do I prune this today or do I just let it grow? And that depends on my final vision for the trees. If I wanted to grow these Natal Plums into a larger bonsai, the best strategy would be just to let them grow, kind of control the roots, keep them in a large pot, and develop it into a larger tree. If I want to keep them small and miniature, then you need to prune them, control that branch structure, create a really good, structure on the tree. So it all depends on what I envision these trees to be in their kind of final styled form. Small trees or large trees. These Natal Plums do miniaturize nicely. The leaves get quite tiny. They develop the flowers and fruit, which are generally in scale with, the vision of a mature tree. So I've got to decide, what do I want in these trees? Larger trees or smaller trees? Here's a look at the trunks in these trees, and you can see they're not really thick. They're about the size, not even the size of my pinky. And I've been growing these trees for probably at least 15 years. So they don't thicken up, rapidly. The only way to thicken them up is to let them grow. The branches almost become like vines. They cascade down, and you will eventually get a fairly thick trunk on them, but it takes a lot of time. I have pruned these in the past with the intention of keeping them as small trees, so I think I will continue that strategy, pruning them up for structure, trying to create, a smaller tree out of these Natal Plums. At the moment, it's kind of hard to see the branch structure. It's kind of a bit overgrown. So I'm going to begin the pruning by pruning back all these long shoots, making the tree more compact. And then I'll go in and look at the branch structure and decide what branches I want to keep and what ones I want to remove. So I'm looking at the tree and I will begin the pruning. And I'll just start kind of pruning high with, some leaves that I can cut it back further. Just taking off the big shoots or cutting them back. And then hopefully I can see what's going on with the tree. Okay, so that's got the trees a little more compact. Maybe I could take this branch back also. You can see the structure a little more. Not a whole lot, but better. So let's go in and look at each tree now. I'll begin with the tree on the right-hand side here. So I have a branch coming off really low on the tree here. If I wanted to create like a multi-trunk style or clump style, I would keep it. If I want to show some trunk, I would remove it. And I think in this case it's too low. I don't want it to be like a clump style tree. I mean, I could, but I don't think I want to. So off that lowest branch comes. And I'll pull that weed out the back there. It just broke off. So now you can see a bit more of the trunk. So the next branch, I've got two branches coming at this level, and I've got to decide, is that branch too low? You can see in the past I must have pruned the trunk here, and it's got a new leader that's grown up. So this branch would be on the outside of this curve here, or close to it. So it would look quite nice. So I think I'll keep it. I will prune it back to here, shortening it. And then I've got one coming out the back at the exact same place as this branch, so I'm going to prune that one off. I'm just going to keep one branch down low, like that. So now you can see that trunk. Looks quite nice. Then if I go up the tree, I've got two branches here. There's one coming out here and one above it, and they're right on top of each other, ladder branches, and that never looks very good. So I think if I keep this upper branch, you can see there's kind of a curve here, and this one would be sort of on the inside of a curve. So I'm going to prune that one off. So I'll come in here and prune that one off like that. I've got a little branch here, which is nice. And then up here, this branch comes up. I'll do a little leaf pruning here. I think maybe I won't, because I might prune back to those leaves, shortening the tree. I think I will. I'll either prune back to that lowest set of leaves here, or maybe not, because the branch does divide here, which is nice to get a division. I think I'll keep that division and prune off these lower leaves, kind of cleaning the structure up so you can see what's going on. That helps. And then this upper structure, I've got some good divisions up here, but I still need to do a little leaf pruning. So I'll remove these leaves, these older leaves. Like that. Now I can see that branch structure a lot more clearly. So this branch comes up, it divides into two, and then it divides again, which is good. So I'm going to keep that structure. I'm just going to prune off the older leaves so you can see what's going on here. So these were very small cuttings when I first got them. I'm going to prune this shoot back, and I'm going to prune the tip off this one. So now you can see that branch comes up, it divides and then divides again, which is quite nice. So now I've got to look at this branch over to the left hand side here. I've pruned it back, and I think it's looking quite good. I'll just remove these lower leaves. Again, kind of cleaning it up to get some light in there. How is that looking now? I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I think that'll do for pruning up that first tree. So let's look at the second tree now and get that pruned up. Here's a look at that second tree. So I've done a chop to the trunk here in the past, and a new leader's grown up. And again, it's got, two opposite branches down low, and I think they're too low. I could keep one of them maybe. This one is sort of on the inside of a curve. It's a slight curve, but I'll start by pruning that out so I don't have the opposite branches here. So that one comes off. And then this lowest branch, that's a tough decision whether I keep that. And this may not be the front of the tree, so I should maybe rotate it around and just look at the tree from all angles. I think somewhere here is the best front. This leader flows nicely in this view. This branch is off to the left-hand side. It does still have that big scar in the front, but if I rotate it around, I don't know, it just shows this section of the trunk is kind of a pole. It's kind of a bit strange looking. Yeah, I think somewhere in this view is probably the best front. So that's what I'll go with. I'm going to start by pruning this branch back here and cleaning it up. So I'll come in and I will prune off the leaves that are the older leaves. So you can actually see where the branch comes out. Like that. And then it divides here. So I'll prune this first branch back, keeping it compact, and prune it back to here. And then I still have some leaf cleanup to do here. Okay, so I just have leaves coming out from the growing tips, so that branch is cleaned up nicely. And then we can go up higher now into the upper structure of the tree. I'll start by removing some of these leaves, the older leaves, cleaning it out so I can see what's going on here. And then I've got to decide, I've got a branch division up here, and I have to decide, is that too tall? And I'm thinking it is. I'm thinking it divides too high in the tree, so I think I'm going to chop it off right here. So here I go. Like that, shortening the tree back. I've got some growth here coming out, kind of, you see the trunk divides here into two, and then I've got growth here. I've got to decide if I want to keep that or clean that area out, and I'm thinking I probably should keep it as sort of creating a bit of a canopy up here. I will prune this one back, this branch, so I'll prune it back to here. And then I've got a branch, again, you know, my major division is here on the trunk. So I've got a new branch that's growing in underneath that, another, you know, ladder branch, one growing above the other. So I'm going to take this one off. Cleaning that area out. I've got another branch here, and I think I'm going to remove that one too. I think it's, you know, growing straight above the lower one, so I'm going to take that out. I could remove the lower one and keep the upper one if I want more of a canopy up top, which might be a good idea. I think I will do that. I think I'll remove that lower branch. I think it's just, I need a little more trunk to make it more of a tree form. And I'll keep this upper one here, kind of helping to create a bit of a canopy on the tree. And then I've got a branch out the back here, and it's kind of, you can see it's opposite to this branch, and I don't really like that. I think I've got a division of the trunk coming up from 1 to 2 here, so I'm going to take out this third one like that. There's an old leaf up here that's kind of got the cold. Prune that away. So it's getting down there now to the basics. I think that is good. I think it's pruned up. So I'm rotating it around to a possible front view somewhere, maybe here. Yeah, I think that'll do. It's a bit, I've removed a branch here in the past, and there's a bit of a bulge there. I could clean that up, and I probably should. It's a bit ugly looking. So I will, I'll clean that up. All right, here I go. It'll leave quite a scar, but I think the scar will be better than the bulge. Like that. That looks a little more flowing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've taken a big branch off here in the past. It would be nice to get something growing out the back here eventually. But yeah, that's got that tree pruned up, ready to resume growing once again. There is some cold damage on these leaves, so maybe I'll also try and find room in the plant room to warm them up and start them growing again. It's just a little bit too cold for them in the basement, I think. Especially now that the weather's turned cold outside, I think that basement's going to get quite cold. Even though these are small trees, I took a lot off them today. You can see all the branches I pruned off. But it certainly got them back to a tree-like form. More compact, the branch structure's set. So, yeah, we'll see how they do in the future. I've got a lot of trees in the basement that are chilling for the winter, and I keep an eye on them, and when I do start to see cold damage on them, some of the ficus, the tender leaves start turning brown or black, they're not liking the cool temperatures. So I then bring them up into the plant room and warm them up for the remainder of the winter. It is a long, cold winter, so you got to keep your eyes on the trees. If they look like they're suffering from the cold, well, then you've got to warm them up and keep them warmer for the winter. So I'll put these in the plant room, and I think they should be quite happy. The last tree I'll be working on today is also one from the basement that's been chilling there. You can see there is some cold damage on it. It's not liking the conditions in the basement, but it's tolerating them. So I think after today I will bring it to the plant room also, warm it up and get it growing. So it's been a couple of years since I've shown this tree on the channel, and I mean it's grown quite a bit. I've always been a little unsure of what I want to do with this species. You can make them look very tree-like, and I think that should be my goal. The main trunk kind of divides into two. There's sort of a twin trunk in this planting. So I think the first thing I need to do is have a look at the kind of the base and decide what I want as the front. And here is a close-up look at what's going on. So you can see it's thickening up quite well. I've got a lot of aerial roots growing out of it. I've done some big chops in the past, and they don't really heal over. I think this whole front section is dead here. I'll pull that out. Like that. So I've got my living part of the tree exposed. Yeah, they don't really heal over that well. So there, I've got that trunk a bit cleaned up. I think this was the front view at one time, and it's not a very good front view really. So this trunk comes up and then it divides here. This one shoots straight up, which isn't very attractive. I could prune it off here, creating sort of a bit of a curved trunk, but that's not the most attractive either. I could prune off that curved one and keep it as a straight trunk, but that's not very interesting. It's, maybe it could be developed in the future, but I've done a prune here and developed this branch, which isn't very flowing either. Yeah, it's tough to decide what to do with this tree. This secondary trunk I cut off, and it's got two branches growing, so they do subdivide for sure. Boy. Yeah, so some tough decisions coming on this tree. Pruning it back and getting it growing once again. It's one of those trees you look at it and you go, what do I do with this? It's just so a bit bizarre, I guess. Well, decisions have to be made. I don't want to leave it the way it is. It's not very attractive looking. I think what I'm going to do today is some hard pruning, getting it more compact. I've done some in the past here. I pruned it here. So this one divided into two. This one just grew one single branch off the cut point. I pruned this tall one here and it's divided into two. So they do divide. I've seen, some people can create quite nice bonsais out of these trees. I'm zoomed in with the camera, and that can only mean one thing, that it's going to get pruned hard. So I've got to decide. I've got this trunk coming up and it divides into two. And I've got to decide, I could prune it off short and try and get more branching, which I think is a good idea. I think this straight section here is just too straight. So I'm going to try hard pruning it right back to here. So here goes my first cut. That's gone. And then the next, the curvy trunk, it comes up and divides into two. I think I'm also going to hard prune them back. So to here. Cutting the whole top off. And the next one, I could leave it, a little taller maybe. You can see it coming out here. I've got a shoot there. I think I will. I'll prune it off here and see what happens. Maybe it'll fan out nicely. So that's got sort of the main tree pruned up. So next I'm going to tackle the secondary trunk back here. And I think I better do the same. I'm going to hard prune it back to here. And the other branch, which I don't really like. You can see if this was the trunk line, it fans out. This one goes straight up. So I think I'm going to remove that vertical one. So I'll cut it off like that. And then I'll nibble that branch back to just make it go away. Like that. So that's gone. Leaving me with just sort of a twin trunk. If this was the front, it doesn't look too bad. And then I've got, I said a twin trunk, and then I've got kind of a third branch coming off here. I don't think I want that. So I'm going to prune that one away totally also. So I'll prune it off short first. And then I will also nibble that trunk away to nothing. I don't think I need a triple trunk. Like that. So now it's reduced to a twin trunk. It's nice and compact. I also have a little branch coming up here, and I don't think I want that either, so I'm going to prune that one off. I think it's a little pup that rooted. So there I go. It's cleaned up and maybe looking better. Not sure where the front would be. Probably yeah, I'm not sure. I'm thinking somewhere like here. If this grows, I could have a bit of a canopy up here. If this is the front, this kind of grows in towards the planting, which isn't nice. It's nice to have it fan out. Yeah, so I think somewhere here would be the front eventually. So I'll warm this planting up and we'll just see how it recovers, how it does. With this tree, I guess it's sort of do or die time for it. It'll either recover and start growing branches, or it could die back. I don't know. So here's what I took off it today. So a lot of branches, a lot of foliage. So we'll just see how it does. Hopefully it'll grow and start to look more like a miniature tree. So today's update is the chicken coop. Some viewers have been wondering, how do we keep the chickens warm in the winter? Well, let's go inside and see. So it was 0 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 20 Celsius last night. And in the barn here, it's quite warm. Hello! It's okay. They're kind of panicking because I have the camera in here. But yeah, they have all their bedding down here. And there's a few heat lamps. And it stays quite warm in here. Right, guys? Okay, I'm gonna leave now. They do not like me in here, so I'm heading out. But yeah, they're all doing fine. Yeah, so that's the chicken update. The chickens did not like me in there. I'm kind of a stranger to them, so they were a little flighty, but they're very calm with my wife in there.
And then I just, I take water so the level always goes down a little bit, so we always have like a ring of ice.
Oh, I see, okay. So there's fresh water in the middle of winter. Yeah, so my wife has to keep chipping off the ice to find the water that's still liquid below. If that freezes over, well, we have other water in the house that she can use.
I didn't dare bring out any tropical trees today. It's just too cold outside, and I think this cold is going to last for at least a week. So I worked on trees that were chilling in the basement, getting them kind of back on track, getting that structure sorted out. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.